Hey folks, let's air layer this Asian pear tree. Now what's air layering? Air layering is a method used to grow a genetically identical copy or clone a tree. This method of cloning plants is an alternative to rooting cuttings, and it's an easy way to get another tree without spending another 30, 50, or even $100 to a new one. The great thing about this process is that the root development happens while the air layer remains attached to the tree. So I'm going to air layer this branch, and it's going to still be connected to the mother tree until I'm ready to disconnect it. When I'm going to disconnect it, I'm going to cut it off after I air layered and grow new roots. Now this is the branch that I'm going to use for my air layering. I'm going to take off about a 1 to 2 inch space where I'm going to remove all of the bark from all around the branch. And then once I'm done, well, there are a few other things, but let me bring you a little closer so you can see the exact procedure. Now what I want to do is go below one of these nodes here and cut carefully, cut all around this branch. Just do a circle completely around it. And then come down, do the same thing just below it. Yes, I could have taken this branch off here too, because I'm not sure if I'm going to use that branch, but I might actually do another one on that one. And then you cut between those two sections. Cut a line up. And then you want to, oh, there you go. Maybe I didn't take the line all the way up, but you want to peel the bark away. All the way around it. Fortunately, this isn't a tree that has really thick bark, but it'll take you a little while. I'm sure some other people could get this done a little quicker, but this is not a race. Just trying to get it done properly. Use my knife a little bit. It's okay if you use a knife a little bit more. That's no big deal. Because hope you can tell. But see, I accidentally hit that with my knife, but that'll be okay. That part will heal. If you can, hopefully you can tell, but that part there has a lot of green there. That's called the cambium, if I'm saying it correctly. Cambium layer. And you want to scrape, and you want to scrape all that away. Got most of it. Now, by scraping that away, you're creating a separation from this part of the branch and this part of the branch. That way, the energy coming from the branch is going to focus on creating roots down here. And if you don't scrape all that away, the branch will attempt to repair itself right along here instead of growing roots. So once you've had that done, the next step is pretty simple. Now with the next step, you want to put some rooting hormone around the tree where you scraped away the cambium layer. Now the next step is to put rooting hormone all around the branch here where you've removed the cambium layer. Now, I've seen a lot of different people use different type of rooting hormones. I've seen tomatoes. I've seen your basic rooting hormone material that you buy at the store. I've seen honey. Yeah, honey is a rooting hormone. But my preference is aloe vera. And yes, I did get permission from my wife to take this branch off of her aloe vera plant. So, what you want to do is cut down the center. Or actually, this aloe vera piece is so juicy, you can probably see the juices coming on out. So you can scrape the juices out of the aloe vera plant. Or you can squeeze it into your hand and wipe it all along. Look how much comes out. Now with the next step, you want to take some peat moss and thoroughly soak it with water. And one reason why I say thoroughly is because peat moss is notorious for looking like it's absorbed the water. But I poured this water in before I turned the camera back on. From here to here is nothing but water, and I poured the water into the peat moss, so it hasn't absorbed it. Using warm water helps, but this process is so important that you want to definitely take your time doing it, because you don't want to put peat moss as a growing medium for your roots and half your peat moss isn't even damp. Work it around with your fingers or stick, whatever you need to do. The most important thing is make sure is that it's mixed. I think that's pretty good, but I'm going to add a little more peat moss because I might need a little bit more. I think that's about it. Yeah, reach down in there, make sure it's soaked through. I prefer to make sure it's overly soaked. So your next step is to be able to take the peat moss and surround this part of the branch. Now there are many different methods. I've seen people take little clear containers like this, cut it so you can wrap it around and close the top with the peat moss in this. I've seen people use cups. I've even seen lead farmer use a plastic bag. I decided to try this method. You've seen these in the stores, you've seen these online. I figured, you know what the heck, I'm just going to use that. So now I'm going to take my peat moss and I'm going to squeeze some of the water out, because I want it damp, but I don't want it just completely soaking wet. And I'm going to put it in my little rooting ball. Might even add just a little more water in there. Like this. And then I'm going to wrap it around the tree branch. This came with zip ties. So now I'm going to zip tie it closed. There you go. Now the other type of containers I mentioned, such as a Tupperware dish, a plastic cup, an old plastic bottle, or even a plastic bag, are perfectly acceptable for doing this type of project. But you will still need to wrap it in something to keep the sunlight out. Because one purpose of having this is to trick the tree branch into thinking that it's underground. And what is it going to do when it's underground? It's going to produce roots. So that's why I like using the low ball here. It was only 10 for $10, and frankly for me, it was just a little easier to do. I wasn't trying to spend a bunch of time on it. And now the $1,000,000 question, how long before I get roots? Well, frankly, it depends on what type of tree you're growing, and it also does depend some on temperatures. Now, frankly, I wouldn't blame you if you decide to peek in and see if you saw some roots developing up in here. But 1 to 3 months should do the job. Of course, now once the roots have developed, you have another exciting project. You need to cut it, I would say maybe about 1 inch below where you scraped off the cambium layer. And you have to get it planted. Treat it like you would any other tree that you had. This is an Asian pear tree, so I'm going to plant it just like I had just bought a brand new Asian pear tree. I'm going to water it, I'm going to fertilize it, I'm going to make sure it's treated just like a tree that I just spent 40, 50, 100 bucks on. Of course, for those of you who get an air layered tree from someone else, take it, research it, and find out what type of soil it needs, how much fertilizer it needs, whether it needs a high pH, a lower pH, how much water it needs. Treat it just like a brand new tree. And pretty soon, you'll be snapping out some fruit. Now let's get out there and get a little dirty.